Hi, I'm Steve Bradley, and I want to welcome you to a new curriculum. A group of people have gotten together and worked on in current culture, the ways that we grow, and taken a look at how we can encourage you to grow and other people to grow. We are all part of small groups ourselves, and here's what we discovered. Growing is one of those things that we think is natural. We think that it just occurs, and in one sense it does. You will always grow in some direction, but we also noticed that it was a good idea to be intentional about growth, to say, but here's how I'd like to grow. Here's the direction that I would like to grow. If you look in the Bible, certainly God wants growth. He sends Jesus into the world. He sends us His Word. He sends us His Spirit, and He sends other people for us to grow with, families, people we work with. Certainly church is about a spiritual body, a spiritual growth that occurs in a very practical way. It's supposed to be that way. So there is an intentionalness toward growth, or at least the direction of how we would grow. So they came up with these 7 G's that help describe ways that they think, or steps that they think were intentional in our growth. They started out by talking about grace. God extends grace to us. It gets our attention. It changes our whole view of life. And then they talked about glorified, that because of that, we honor God and we worship God. But these first 2 steps are also steps for us to intentionally imitate. We extend grace to other people. As we live our lives in very real and practical ways, it then glorifies God to other people. They see God living inside of us more. Then they decided the next step, the 3rd step, would be to gather together, because we need one another. Just like you need a family, you need people to encourage you. You need people to challenge you at times. And as we gather together, especially in smaller groups, then our conversations become much more intentional. We learn to trust one another. We realize that we all have struggles and difficulties. We can support one another through those struggles and difficulties, and our relationships become much more real and practical. Then they talked about growth itself, because all of this is about growth. Our goal is to grow, and in a group, the goal is not just for you to grow, but for you to encourage someone else to grow, for their life to become stronger and better. In Hebrews, it says this, "And let us encourage one another all the more as we see the day drawing near." So there's an encouragement that is intentional. It should be there, that we should have with one another. It works really best in a group. Then they started talking about gifts, because we're all gifted. We all have strengths. We all have weaknesses. And for us to use our strengths with a group of people means we become better at what we do. And our strengths may cover someone else's weaknesses or their shortcomings. So we find our place, our belonging in those strengths. And then they began to talk about how you give, because the point of our giftedness is to give of what we have in order to strengthen the group and strengthen the family, just as God gives to us. And then finally, that we are to go. There's a reaching out, even in small groups, that is there and is necessary. Families grow if they're healthy. Small groups grow if they're healthy. Churches grow when they're healthy. And that means new people. That means new challenges, new struggles. But it also means exciting new times in our lives as we see God work in someone else's life. And even with a new person, He continues to work in my life. What we've discovered is this. If you want to grow, growth needs small group interaction. We live in a world that's big. You may come to church and find a lot of people that you say, I can't really get to know those people. But it's nice to know that there are that many people who want to pursue and follow a relationship with God. Great. It's a wonderful thing, necessary thing. But then you have to break it down to a smaller group that you know better and that knows you better. That takes time. It takes a lot of wonderful character traits, patience, encouragement, diligence, like I said, a real sense of being intentional so that our growth is real, our conversations are healthy and genuine, and we're able, as we get to know one another in those small groups, to talk about deep, important, intentional things that really matter in our lives. It becomes a real meaningful conversation, and of course, they become very meaningful friendships. So I hope that you like this study. I hope it encourages you. Just to let you know, if a small group doesn't work out for you, if it's just not your place yet, try another one. Keep trying until you find something that works for you so that God can build you up, make you stronger, and He can use you to make others stronger. Thanks for coming.